Hello.
Usually it takes a few seconds to actually load up, though. You can fill the space if you want to while I type this.
This is Vinny and Amy. We are here to discuss mental health, specifically the topic of.
You can speak up, Vinny.
Specifically the topic of life anxiety today. For me, I guess that pertains to and we're both kind of in the situation where we're about to graduate, hopefully this semester, and so obviously a lot of people experience different types of anxiety with that, and of course there's other forms of anxiety that come up for anyone in their own individual life. But I think for me, just because I think it's something that more people might relate to, I would probably want to focus on the anxiety that people are going through, which I think is a pretty typical thing when you're going to graduate, because it's like, oh, what type of jobs am I going to have? Am I going to work? Am I going to be successful? Which is kind of like the real deal now, not just the idea of am I going to get good grades in college? Because that's pretty much not going to matter anymore.
Yeah. We just kind of jumped right into this. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't paying attention to your introduction that you gave. Because I was asking if we have sound. So for whoever joins in with this, right now we're operating off the college Wi-Fi, which is kind of sketchy in my opinion. Hi Alicia, thanks for commenting. I'm assuming if you comment that maybe means that we have sound, so cool. But yeah, somebody just confirm that so that we know. Vinny kind of gave a little introduction. I'm going to completely disregard everything you just said and do another one. Because I was typing that and setting it up still a little bit. But yeah, Vinny came up with this topic because we're both graduating soon. We're in our final semesters right now. Thank you, Alicia, for letting us know that. As Vinny was saying. And this was I'd been bothering people to do some form of a live stream or podcast with me since I get tired of doing them by myself. And this was basically the topic that Vinny picked. And I think that, again, everybody can go through. And Vinny, in his little setup, addressed a lot of the topics that I was kind of planning on bringing up too. So yeah, once you get to the end of your time at college, I would say you start having those thoughts for what are you going to do and that sort of thing.
Yeah, totally.
And Vinny touched on this too. At least while you're at school, everything is very structured, which isn't, I would say, necessarily a bad thing. There's always auditions going on. There's always different ensembles going on. There's always different levels to shoot for. So that can be really good because you're always pushing yourself to grow. So for here, if you really want to be in the jazz band, then that's something to push yourself towards. Or if you really want to be in Gretsch or whatever, that's something to push yourself towards. And those can both be good and bad things because you have something to help you grow. But it's also not and it's a finite experience. It comes to a close eventually, as all things do, so to speak. It's interesting because you brought that up now, and I have a really good quote from Frank joined. Hi, Frank. I didn't say hi to the other people that joined, but hi, Cole and Laura as well. I see you.
What's up, homies?
Anyways, so yeah, as far all your school experiences will eventually come to a close. So I know for some people, sometimes regarding school stuff, it can become a little bit of a self-worth thing if you don't do well in auditions or you're unhappy. Or sometimes there's just here, there's just always going to be a lot of guitar players. Well, not as much anymore, but when I was coming in as a freshman, there's a lot of guitar players. So sometimes that can become a little bit of a self-worth thing, I guess. At least moving through the ranks, so to speak. I don't know if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, I think it can totally play into that. Like you were saying, I think the biggest thing to for people to reassure themselves is just to try to have as much adaptability as they can, because your lifestyle could be changing very quickly if you're graduating and trying to be like a freelance musician or something. Because, like you said, we go to school and have a pretty good amount of structure, classes. You know, we have groups to play with, so we, for the most part, that's one way of like keeping your playing. Hi, Frank. That's one way of like keeping your playing sort of polished, I guess, and keeping yourself honest. And if you don't immediately have like a ton of work after school, maybe that's a harder thing to get, just playing with other people. So that, I think, is one thing. But the biggest thing, I think, is, like I said, being adaptable and trying to either have some sort of routine or intentionally not have a routine, but like be conscious. Because I don't know, I think a lot of people are very much for a routine and that works for people. But I think if some people are aware that they don't have a routine and they're like just really focus on different things each day, that can still be just as productive, if not more. So I think you just have to have an open mind through all of it. And you got to be willing to, I don't know, if you want, like, speaking from my own experience, since I kind of want to be a freelance musician when I'm out, you know, I have already been thinking about what it's going to be like when I graduate since, like, you know, my probably sophomore year of college, if not earlier. And I think that's something that a lot of people around here are pretty good about, is like trying to set themselves up to assure that they're going to have some degree of whatever you could consider to be success. And that's such a big, like, that could be a whole other podcast of like, what is success? We've already talked about that, but
you're kind of going to, well, like I said, I was making a joke earlier that I always write out notes and have like a flow, and then Vinny and my other co-host never have any notes. So you're kind of already jumping into things I was going to talk about later, but that's fine. So yeah, part of what Vinny has brought up, which we haven't addressed as much, and try to stop saying and like a lot, it's driving me crazy, is, I guess, like the anxiety. Because again, when you're in school, everything's kind of set, and you know, you're focused on advancing and that sort of thing, and like moving up through the ranks. Geez, I just said like 6 times. It's so hard not to say it. But again, you start getting that, I guess, like anxiety, so to speak. So I think it's always good kind of to like reflect on what I've done too, is reflect and try to go back onto like the reason why you wanted to be a musician in the first place, or a gigging musician, or even just perform. That's something I've, at least for me personally, that I've kind of been reflecting on lately. And I don't think it's like a bad thing to do that, because sometimes while you're in school, you really forget that. Not that school is a bad thing, but if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, then it's a lot easier, I think, to miss that. For me, when I originally came here, I was a music ed major. A lot of people were, but you kind of discover that it's not always what you want to do. So I switched my major to jazz studies and music business, and I'm doing my double major, and I'm graduating in 4 years. So yay! I try to get my hands in frame. Anyways, so yeah, for me personally, when I finally decided to like switch majors, it was a really selfish decision in a way, and I don't think that's bad. It was one of the first decisions I feel like that I really made selfishly for myself, because leading up to that point, I'd been really depressed, as Vinny knows, just mentally and in my own life, and I was like super unhappy. And I already kind of knew that music ed wasn't the direction that I wanted to go into. So at least with that, I made the decision to switch just because I wanted to be happy. And I still had issues with that, like with music and playing, before I became the person that is sitting before you today in this little live stream podcast thing that I change the name of all the time. So yeah, for me, it was a really selfish decision to make, but I decided, at least at that point, that I wanted to be happy, and I was going through all this other shit at the time that I was trying to figure out, that I was just gonna fucking do something for myself. So I don't know if you want to touch on that at all, but
no, I think like it's a hard thing for a lot of people to do. But I also, like, you got to understand that every person is going to have their own sort of upbringing and like family values and family situations. So like I think for some people it might be an even harder decision to make, or maybe less hard depending on their situation, because some parents will just totally, be fully supportive and can financially like support those decisions. Some people don't have that luxury, so it's not like a uniform thing that it's like, yeah, everyone should just do exactly what they want to do, because I think I wish that was the case, but I don't know if everyone has that luxury, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to talk about next.
And it's also hard because like you don't want to discourage anyone's passion. And I would never want anyone to discourage me in that if I were going through that, and I myself like would never want to discourage someone else. But there are like realistic things that can sort of get in the way, like financial stability. Some people may really have a hard time with that. But I think if anyone truly wants it enough, and I have yet to discover this, like I've yet to find the answer for this myself, but I think if someone really wants it enough, they're gonna make it happen in some way or fashion. And it depends what it means too to like want something. Like what do you, like we were touching on earlier, what do you define as being successful? Are you like financially stable and happy? Is that what you define as success? Or are you like, do you want to be like playing 100 gigs a year, more 200 gigs a year? Are you trying to like diversify who you're playing with, play with like bigger names, go on tour? There's so many different things that could be attributed to whatever you consider to be success that is such like an arbitrary thing. I always just go back to like personal progress and trying to keep tabs on myself periodically and go back and compare them, because if you're doing anything right, you should notice huge differences, I think between months of like, recording yourself, and then even if you're not getting a ton of like individual practice on, if you have a lot of outside experience, or you can go to rehearsal once a week and be really mentally present there, I think you can still grow a lot. But yeah, I like the idea of just trying to use every sort of little moment as an opportunity for just slight growth, because that stuff does add up over time. And that's harder to see. It's like watching grass.
Yeah, I was going to touch on the circumstances that Vinny was talking about, because this is something that I've talked to him and a couple other people quite a bit, at least within my own life. And usually whenever I talk about it, I just refer to it as unfortunate life circumstances. And Vinny was mentioning like financial things. So for me, I know one of my like big priorities is like, how am I going to take care of my family? Kind of like what you were saying, after I'm done with college, or how I'm going to utilize my majors to the best of my ability. And that's one of the reasons too why I added on like a music business major as well. I think the term is gainful employment, if that's the right term I'm thinking of. Just because I know, and I don't regret adding on the double major either, just because I have learned a lot, and even just with promoting myself. But that's like a different story too. Because obviously I want to make music and be happy, but I also not just support myself, but I need to be able to support my immediate family, so that they can be happy, which I won't get into as much right now, because I don't want to. But yeah, so there's all of like that part too. So yeah, that's something I'm going through, so I don't have a clear defined answer for it, other than to say if you're also experiencing, I guess, family hardships, or you have to take care of other people and you don't know how to, you're not the only one with that stress. So you're not alone, if that hopefully makes you feel any better. And I'm sure we'll all figure it out, hopefully, together. One thing I will add in, if you're watching this, please comment and let us know your thoughts so far, because I like hearing from you guys, and it keeps it more interactive too. So I like that. And I'm going to move along kind of into the next thing that I want to talk about. So there's, again, like I mentioned before, there's a lot of life things that can really weigh on you, because again, everybody goes through like different, really like difficult circumstances, which can make pursuing what you want to do hard. or if you're trying to take care of other people or other things or whatever, that can be really difficult. So one of the things, at least that I've talked to some of my mentors about, just because they know that I've been going through more difficult times recently, although like there's a lot of really bad life circumstances going on, I often tell people, like, even though that's going on, I'm still really happy, like, with myself and like who I am. So like there's a lot of like shitty things going on, but in a way, mentally, this is like the best that I've ever been as far as like my own mental health goes, and like depression and like self-harming and that stuff. I've pretty much learned how to deal with that for the most part, unless if I get really mad at or upset at somebody. So there's like that part. And as far as just like playing and like putting myself out there and that sort of thing, that's helped me a lot, like mentally and musically too, I think.
Yeah, jam sessions.
Yeah,
gigs.
yeah. I was gonna go into that. I don't know if you want to add anything before I do.
No, I think
you just
you pretty much said everything I would have said, I think, there.
Yeah, so kind of, I don't know if Vinny's reading my notes right now or not, but if you look down,
Oh no.
words. Anyways, yeah, so one of the things I kind of started to do, and I put this under my little section of things that help me or make me feel better. I'm a firm believer, at least for myself, is one, if you're not feeling good about something or not feeling good about life in general, usually there's a reason why. So as a side note, for example, I would get really stressed out in our music business class, in Carrie Dedman's class. And it took me a few classes to figure out why I was getting stressed out in it and like feeling anxious. And I realized it was because we were always talking about the future in that class, and I didn't know what I was going to be doing with my future. So it was a complete like subconscious thing. Now I'm okay with it. So that's like a random connection. Anyways, I'm always analyzing that stuff now in my life because it's just what I do.
For me too.
So what I found and came to the realization of is I was unhappy, and I was unhappy because I wasn't playing enough, or I wasn't gigging enough. And then sometimes you start playing and doing that more, and you're still unhappy. That's a different story. So yeah, I just kind of I wasn't playing enough, and I'm a musician, and I want to do that more. So as Vinny's kind of aware, at least for me personally, I've been trying to put myself out more. I've been trying to hustle my own gigs and like get that going. For me, I basically came to the conclusion if I didn't, like, nobody's gonna like get me any gigs for myself. So it's like I just have to do it.
Absolutely.
There's too many gigs here. Vinny's one of 2 bass players, so he'll never have any problems. The only 2 bass players in existence in the Elmhurst area. So yeah, I basically came to the realization that I had to start doing it myself. And I just relied on the fact that the positive feedback I get from my friends of them saying that my playing's good and they like playing with me is they're being truthful in that. So if I get something, I'm going to ask them and they're just going to play with me. That was kind of like the mentality that I took with it, that I just had to go and do it. And also with that too, I mean, I'll kind of get into this a little bit later, but I hate like putting music or myself playing or like recordings up online. It's a necessary thing that you have to do. It's one of the reasons why my music page isn't actually listed under my specific name, because I didn't want any of my colleagues to actually be able to find it. And then you realize, oh shit, I need the support of my colleagues so I can get somewhere. Yeah. Which is really
funny how that works.
Yeah. If you see, I notice a lot of memes, or not exactly memes, but posts other people share, that music isn't a competition, which in a real way is very, very true, because you need the support of your colleagues to get anywhere or even get like a basic start at all. So either way, everything you do has to become public, and you need your friends' support. So yeah, there's that part. And then something else that like makes me feel good too, is going to jam sessions, at least the Phyllis one, because I know all the people now. I have to expand my jam session cycle thing, which I was also talking to you about, which I'll probably be doing after my recital, just because I have other stuff doing all the work for it now, so I don't want to even think about that till afterwards. So yeah, playing at that has helped a lot because if you go to jam sessions, eventually like you'll meet people. Most people are, I think, good people, and they want to make friends, they want to make connections. Yeah. I know that I've made friends. If Melissa, if you watch this, like I've met you and I've talked to you and I've hung out with you on different occasions. She's a really good trumpet player. I've met Evan and Dan Christian, who are both bass players. I met this really cool drummer last week who I was super intimidated by. I can't remember his name, but he was Kenny's first roommate. Kenny was saying he's like 30, but he's a drummer. I've met Alex. I've met John Rick, who I all talk to them more now.
Yeah, totally. Good people.
Yeah.
Good musicians.
Yeah.
So, meet a lot of new people in those sessions, in those settings. It's cool.
Yeah, so most people want to like make connections and that sort of thing. I might save this other point for later. But yeah, you just that's what I do to help myself. If you're not feeling good about something, it's kind of something that you just have to make yourself do. I don't know if you want to add something.
Yeah, I think it's just a diligence thing, like I was saying, and I also think it's not like it's something you should not have to force yourself to do too much, because if it's just totally like dragging yourself out, like if it's one time maybe and then you end up having a great experience, I think it's good. But if it's a consistent thing, I think it's okay to take a step away and like let yourself breathe and be in a good mental space. But I think, that's kind of my opinion on the jam session thing.
I'm going to say, this kind of goes into it. We were talking about different sessions. Yeah, it's because you were saying like not to force yourself to do things. At least if you're in a bad place mentally. I like the Phyllis one a lot because I know everybody there. So as Vinny knows, I go by myself now. I don't need other people to be with me for the most part. At least everybody there knows who I am now. So it's chill and it's good and I like it a lot. So it's a good supportive environment. Now, if I was going to a new jam session, I would definitely want Vinny to be with me. And I'm definitely making him come with me. Because I don't want to go by myself. But the flip side, and I also know for a fact, since he's my friend, that he will come with me. So it's not necessarily forcing as much. But the flip side of that too is I was listening to like this interview on WDCB where they were kind of talking about how like you become a jazz. Also, sorry for the random saxophone noises in the background. Those saxophone players just don't know that practice rooms exist. So, why practice in a practice room when you can just do it in the hallway? Now that I'm done vibing them. What do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't want to put anyone on blacklist if I don't know what it is. But I will say maybe we stole the last practice room.
Yeah, that could also be a thing. We tried to go to the library, but Vinny got denied. Anyways.
JPass.
Oh, the interview I was watching. They were saying you have to want something so much that you like can't do anything differently, or you can't live without it. So like, let's say if I didn't know Vinny or for some reason or whatever, you couldn't go, or I couldn't get anybody else to go with me. As uncomfortable and anxious and an actual mess that I would be, I would ask the musicians I know what sessions like they go to or that they really like, and I would just go to those by myself. And I would probably hate it. Yeah. I probably wouldn't. Oh my god.
Wouldn't you agree that, like, for the most part, those uncomfortable feelings generally subside? Maybe not completely, but usually after an initial like breaking of the ice, and like you're there, and like chances are like you'll probably see someone you at least recognize.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? There are kind of like levels of like security, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I remember I was always nervous about like making a good first impression. And someone told me they're like, well, you only have to make a first impression one time ever for someone. And like that's both overwhelming, but that's also like, I don't know. It's like a one-time thing you got to get over. You got to swallow the pill. You know?
Like that time I tanked my first jam session. Kenny brought that up to me.
Exactly.
PTSD flashbacks. He's like, I remember the first time you played here, and he's like, you were second guessing yourself every time you played. He's like, and now you don't second guess yourself at all.
That's great, but it's just also it's experience. Like
yeah, that too. But I'm sure once I go to a new session, it'll be like the first time all over again. But that's okay too. Frank commented. I think I'll read what his comment is first before I go into the next part. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna comment on that saxophone player. All right. So Frank said, the future is now, and you are already in it. You're hustling gigs and sitting in. You have already started your post-graduation activities. Lastly, congrats on the state of the art studio you are in. Maybe means the state of the mind. I don't know.
I think he's talking about this specific studio.
Okay.
I think he's
okay. Yeah. Sorry. I didn't get that right off the bat. We make do with what we have.
Yeah, we do.
We improvise. Sorry, I'm being sassy. Thanks, Frank. I like the comment. What was it? Oh, yeah, that was one of the other things I wanted to say, too. Kind of what Frank just said, too. One of the other driving factors is I wanted to get in, because I think I started going to the Phyllis session last summer, at least for that one. I wanted to get into going to sessions and gigging before I graduated. That was like a big thing for me. Also, I waited till I was 21 before I started going to jam sessions, because depending on where you go, sometimes there's an age restriction. I just waited. That's me personally. I know Vinny probably went to them before then.
I went to some, yeah.
So you can do whatever you're comfortable with regarding that. Again, for me, I waited, but there's other stuff going on too. So yeah, that was the other thing, is I wanted to get going on this and not be starting it, I guess, after I graduated, or like be comfortable with going to sessions in the city before you graduate. I think that's a big thing to do.
Yeah, I think if, especially if like you want to really be comfortable with like going to jam sessions by the time you're out of school, then might as well get through like the nervousness and all that stuff first. Not that like it goes away, but I think experience is the best teacher in that situation. And all you can do is either show up to the jam session, kill it, and feel better about yourself, and like, oh, I can do this. Or maybe you fuck up and then you go home and practice really hard for a while.
Yeah. I mean, there's.
It's not like that concrete, but I think the experience either way, if you can take something from it. At any point,
And again, everybody does. Everyone messes up due to anxiety, I think, in any playing situation. And everybody knows that, or is scared, or like needs encouragement. I always try to encourage and get people to come out to the Phyllis session, because again, that one's much more relaxed and fun. It depends on where you go. Some people might be more harsh or like mean. But yeah, everyone, you don't always play how you want to, or like sometimes things happen, but that doesn't define your self-worth in the end, and it never will.
For me personally, another thing that's kind of helped me just not even like be more positive with my own playing, but just care about my own playing less. Not in like a
not like you're not shutting, but
I just try to I've kind of come to accept the fact that I'm probably never ever gonna walk away from a performance and be like, wow, I just killed that. Like no matter how much I either do or do not prepare. Sometimes I think it's better to not prepare as much, depending on like the type of because you can like psych yourself out, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
if you have your basic mechanics down, the main thing I'm saying is like another thing that experience has helped me come to realize is I'm probably gonna find something negative about every single performance I do, and like that stuff for a while for me was very much like the only thing I could focus on. And I
Yeah.
think you learn to focus on other things, and then I also think you learn that like, and this isn't a bash against anyone, but like no one really cares that much at the end of the day, like about
Yeah.
your performance other than you, and like if you inspire someone, that's awesome. You probably do without even knowing it. But like give or take, no, I don't think anyone's gonna walk away and be like, wow, I'm gonna memorize that solo that he or she just played, and like that is my whole life now. It's just not that big of a deal to anyone except for the individual most of the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't want to necessarily have that like complacent mentality. And I get just the mentality of being a little nervous and wanting to do well is not a bad thing by any means. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people confuse like that was kind of the biggest point I wanted to like kind of wrap up my thoughts with was just like I think a lot of people think anxiety or nerves or these feelings are if you're feeling that people just have like an association of that with being bad. And I think that's
Oh,
just a
yeah,
sign
no.
of caring about.
I'm always
Yeah.
anxious before I play at jam sessions.
But that's
Like,
just a sign of
yeah,
wanting to
no,
do it.
as much as I know going to the Phyllis session, like I'll be okay and I'll be fine. Before I play, I'm immediately anxious. Or even if somebody ends up showing up and I don't know who they are, I'm like re-anxious again.
Yeah.
And
So
that's okay.
so I
too.
think anxiety, like the fact that most people experience some form of
Yeah,
anxiety.
it's
But I think
performance nerves.
it's usually a sign of wanting to care. Like if you're in it's a simple, this is kind of a simple analogy, but like if you're in a race and you notice that you're way behind the other people, like there's going to be some type of urgency that fires in your mind that tells you I have to move faster if I want to win the race. So what you're doing is you're like coming in contact with what it is you want and what it is you need to do differently to get there. And sometimes like that realization causes anxiety, but that realization is exactly what it is, and it's a realization of something. So I think anxiety sometimes, when it's not excessive and like crippling, which it can be for a lot of people, like on physical and mental levels. But I think a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of pressure is always good. They always, that statement, pressure makes diamonds. Like that's a saying I hear all the time, especially in sports, and it's very true. I think like a little crunch time. That's why so many people procrastinate on their homework too. They can't get themselves to engage their mind in that like really engaged level of focus unless it's like this is due in like 12 hours. And it's just a level of like urgency. So I think anxiety and urgency can go hand in hand. And it's not a bad thing at all necessarily.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like it's not bad to talk about anxiety. It's not something to be ashamed of, even though I've talked with a lot of people too, depending on what culture they were brought up in. Certain cultures are just like anxiety is like not a real thing, and like we don't believe in therapy. We don't handle things this way.
No,
I think obviously here we're here to talk about
a lot of Eastern cultures, especially Asian. I've actually done a little bit of research about it on the topic, which I won't get into right now. But it's pretty bad in some places.
I believe it. Yeah.
I don't know if you want to add anything.
That was pretty much my closing thoughts, I would say.
Yeah, you were talking about you brought up mentioning it to people. Yeah, depending on who you're comfortable with. I know for me, it depends on who. Like for me, at least at the session, I'm very honest with Kenny, who talks to me every time. Love Kenny. I'm very honest with Kenny. I'm very honest with Tom Kadera, who plays there, and I'm very honest with Alex, who's the saxophone player there as well. So I think I just told them one time, I was just like, yeah, I'm really anxious. And they want people to come. So they're sweethearts. So their response is always, is there anything we can do to make you feel better? Or to like help you or like be supportive? Or I was super terrified to play with that other drummer, because I think you weren't there, so I didn't have my normal rhythm section buddies with me. And I was like, oh no. And then Tom wasn't playing because it was that other drummer, and I was like, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. And I was like freaking out, and then Tom was just like, you'll be fine.
Yeah,
Peer pressured.
Yeah, I think that's another thing.
You know?
I know I said I was dumb, but one thing that just made me think, I was like,
I have more to say, so you might find yourself adding on.
Experience in general, like I was saying, like the more experiences you have in that situation, like, oh, I don't know this drummer, I don't know this bass player, that'll also become a more like second nature thing. Like, oh, I don't know the drummer. Well, he's either going to be he or she or they, whatever. I don't want to say all drummers are going to be male. I don't want to perpetuate that stereotype. But anyway, the drummer, they're either going to be an asshole, they're going to be really nice, they're going to be really good, they're going to be really bad. There's a handful of different like scenarios you're going to come. And it's almost like you could start to like categorize them and like write a book about it almost, and like predict which one you're going to come across. And I think experience shows you that too. So
make sure you stay in frame, Vinny.
No. That's about all I had to say for that. But
to add to that, jeez, I don't remember you talking. Felt like I was going to say something important, but it's just completely gone. Oh, I remember. I was going to say, yeah. So I think you know this, Vinny, but I'm a very emotional person. So I think my emotions show on my face a lot too. So one thing that helps with me too, as far as anxiety goes in playing, so I haven't had a bad jam session experience yet, because everybody lets me pick the tunes I want to play. So even if I go, so that has definitely played a role into my current positivity. I haven't had to try to figure out anything by ear yet. Otherwise, I would probably have a different perspective on my life at the moment. So yeah, at the last session I went to, there's a moment where I was just freaking mentally, not out loud, mentally. Because I think they wanted to play a tune, I think it was like 26 too. The drummer wanted to play that. And on the inside, I was like, there's piano there. I was like, no! So it must have shown on my face, or I must have just not been saying anything. Well, actually, no, John made the joke first, because John has access to the microphone. So on his microphone, he's like, Amy's like, it's your turn to play, come up and play with us. And as I'm walking up, John was just like, this next tune we're going to play is Satellite. And I was like, I was in the process of doing a 180 before he was just like, that was a joke, and I was just like, same reaction for the 26 too. Anyways, my sheer panic must have been showing on my face, because about five different people on the bandstand were just like, what tune does Amy want to play? Including John. I was like, oh, thank God. And then I got to call my tune. Everything was fine. But that sheer moment of utter panic that happened twice was a lot. It's a lot for me to handle. Probably occurred in like 70 seconds. Had like 6 different heart attacks. So yeah, that happened. That was the one thing I wanted to add. Oh my God. So yeah, that would probably, to your general state of life satisfaction, that'd probably play into it.
Yeah.
I also just got really lightheaded and dizzy because I got too excited. That's a weird problem I've been having lately. I have to like regulate my breathing. It's a weird thing. So yeah, so that kind of touches on that sort of thing. I'm just going to kind of go through this stuff, and if you want to interrupt me, you can, Vinny. I don't think we'll get to some of it, but that's cool. So yeah, one of the well, I messaged you about this, but one of the general fears I have, I guess post-graduation, that I just started thinking about like 2 days ago, is I'm like terrified I'm never going to see my friends again. Like I'm scared like I won't see you anymore because I don't have a class and I won't have grudge with you. It's like the same thing with like TJ and just other people, or even like the Phyllis session, that's a finite thing too, for as long that it will last, it's still finite depending on who runs it and who wants to run it. But I know for me personally that I guess like I'm a doer, and I would probably just make you guys hang out with me.
Well, I think it's just like recognizing those fears and apprehensions about those things are just signs of things that you care about and want to keep close to you, I suppose. So I think that's a pretty understandable thing, and it's something I thought about a lot too. I mean, like, I also know, just knowing how I am as a person, like I know I'm not gonna be at Elmhurst when I graduate very much.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna be with the same combinations of people unless some external effort is made, on my part or someone else's part. So
are you saying you're not gonna talk to me anymore?
no.
Vinny's like peace.
Everyone. Why did I talk to anyone?
So yeah, that's like a fear that I have, people going their separate ways, so to speak. It's just like this weird anxiety thing. But I know if somebody's truly your friend or musician buddy or whatever, then you'll probably always stay in contact with each other, But even just in, like, from what professors have told me, I don't know, it just made me anxious all of a sudden. Like, one of my professors was like, yeah, I like just played a gig with like that guy, and he's like, I haven't seen him in years. It was great, like catching up. Like, that just like made me so anxious for some reason. Because I was just like, oh my god, I'm like, there's gonna be people that I might like not see again for a really long time, and like that sort of thing where it's like musicians are like passing like lights or whatever.
Definitely.
But ideally, that means that you're also doing something that makes you really happy and successful. So I think that's kind of the other part of it too. And then I'm going to touch on, I kind of want to hopefully wrap this up soon. Oh, we've been going for like 40 minutes, but I always don't want to wrap it up soon. So just kind of some other things I want to touch on personally that don't necessarily have to do with music-oriented stuff. Is for me, I mentioned this before, but I do actually want to utilize my music business degree to a certain extent. One, because I want to take care of my family. Two, because I think some of that's interesting. And like in relation with that, or regarding that, one of the things that makes me really anxious is I'm somebody who's really driven to help other people. Like I want to make an impact on other people. So I've been like trying to figure out how to do that post-graduation. And obviously I do stuff like this, but I actually really want to be able to help people, like whether it's like music charity related things, or just like personally like doing something, or at least with like my degree. I mean, obviously I just want to like help people make an impact, but being able to earn a salary while doing that would be an ideal life circumstance, I think. Yeah. So that's something that's really important to me, and something that kind of makes me, I guess, like a little anxious because I don't just want to like drop the ball on that, and I don't know how I'm going to go about doing that. If anyone's watching this and you should message me. Please hire me. Anyways, so there's that part. And then, yeah, I guess these are my closing thoughts on. I don't have time to bring up the sick Frank Portalease emails I have on this subject. Maybe I'll show them to you later, Vinny. I might send them to you. I don't think we have time during this podcast, though. So I guess some other cool things, or not cool things, but things to do to make your anxiety go away or make you less nervous. And this even can go along with, I don't know, maybe playing with musicians that maybe are mean or whatever. Is try to take in the positive messages from the people who matter to you. So one of the things I kind of think about when I go to jam sessions, and Frank has talked to me about this a lot, and in the end, not everybody's going to like you, and people might dislike you for like no reason. Like it could be completely out of your control. Like they can just decide. Arbitrary. So you can't let somebody else's opinion of you really get you down. And that's kind of helped me to be who I am and to always like reach out to people and just, to like do things or like when I asked like John to like come to like your guys'
Yeah.
gig, like that was an out of nowhere thing for me to do, but he came through, so that was cool. You know, so there's always the chance like somebody you don't know as well, like maybe they do dislike you. It could be a thing. But you can't let that determine like who you are as a person. And I also try to remind myself is I might be playing with somebody and, you know, they might decide like they just don't like my playing. But I have to take in like the opinions from people who care about me and have like seen my growth too and who really know me. Because in the end, those guys have the opinions that really matter. Like Vinny knows my playing and has seen me grow over 4 years. Both Kenny and Frank really like my playing a lot or have been making comments about it and giving me really good feedback on it. So, you know, all their opinions matter a lot. The other guys at the Phyllis session, both like John and Tom, have given me really positive messages along those lines, and Shaq too, Sam. So it's like the people who know you and have seen you grow over an extended period of time, they really matter. And like your professors' opinions that you take lessons with, like their opinions are the ones that actually really matter. Not necessarily somebody that you play with one-off for 3 minutes, you know?
Right.
Just
Totally.
for what it comes down to with that.
Even though that might be the thing that you remember longer,
Yeah.
just because of the.
If it's a bad experience.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true.
So I think it's important to kind of remind yourself of that. At least for me too, as far as just majoring, becoming a jazz studies major, you know, when I was talking about it to like Mike and Doug as a freshman and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, nobody ever said, I don't think you should do this, you know, like I don't think you should. And God, I wasn't a good musician then. Not that I'm saying I'm a good musician now, but I really was not a good musician then. None of them ever said, I don't think you should do this, you know. So I think that's another important factor. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on, and this is a little bit cliche, but something I've noticed I have a problem with. I don't always really like talking to other people about like my dreams or like hopes or goals for the future. It's this weird thing I have. It kind of has to do with like almost like a self-worth thing. I'm trying to like get better about it because in the end, like you just, I don't know, it's like this weird thing where there's always that part of you like you don't want to say it out loud or like you're afraid people like judge you or laugh at you or like maybe your playing isn't as good as like one of your friends so you think you like don't deserve it as much. But I think it's important to say what you want like out loud or to yourself because you all like everybody deserves that. So just to get you just started, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. But like things that I want to do or like my dreams for the future is I've said this already, but I want to help people. I want to help music charities in Chicago, kids who can't afford music lessons or like don't have music programs. Like I want them to be able to study music. You know, in low-income communities or, you know, they aren't as privileged as other people. That's really important to me. I want to help people who are going through mental health-related things because I've been really depressed and suicidal before, and I know what that's like, so that's important. I want to play gigs with my friends. I don't think it's wrong to say that out loud. And importantly, with my friends, is as much as I like playing music, I think it's always been the community that has taken me in and the hangs that have really drawn me into like other people and the connections that are kind of formed with that. So that's really important to me. And on the even farther scale, which I've been kind of scared to say out loud too, is I want to create music that's meaningful and that's important, even if it's like original music or music that's important to yourself, you know. Like in the end, like I'm inspired by Chick Corea and I'm inspired by like Pat Metheny, and like the original music that like they create with that. I haven't gotten into that. Like I've only done jazz arranging. I haven't written anything original. I don't know if I ever will. But that's like even, I would say that's something that's even further than just like gigging or doing like standard gigs, so to speak. But in the end, as I was saying before, there's no reason that I shouldn't say that out loud or that I would deserve that, even though you're my friend. Sorry to use you as an example. There's no reason to say that I deserve that less than Vinny, so to speak.
Yeah,
Sorry for putting you on the spot or being mine. person of choice.
That's definitely like for me. I'm very much in the same boat. I want to play with my friends. I mean, like every opportunity I will take if it seems like something that could lead to something cool. And I'm always also like open to widening my circle of who I consider my friends. So like,
Yeah.
I think one thing you could do is like sort of spin the anxiety of like, am I going to see all my friends here at Elmhurst when I graduate? The realistic answer is probably no. I mean, but you can also like say I've yet to meet so many friends I will make in whatever industry, whether it's like in the business side of things or like booking gigs. You go to jam sessions and like meet another instrumentalist you really click with, and they're like, hey, let's get together, let's play some gigs, or let's read some arrangements I've been doing, just stuff like that. So like having your circle is nice, and hopefully you can always benefit from that and go back to that. But I think your circle can definitely expand.
No, if I didn't start going at least to the Phyllis session, like I wouldn't, like I said, like I've already met new people, and I wouldn't change that, you know. And I don't want this. We're kind of wrapping up here, or at least I'm shooting to wrap up around now because I want to eat food before our class. At least even to a certain extent going to that. And I know those guys are pretty humble. So they don't think of themselves as being on another higher tier, so to speak. But even just going to that, like I love the community here at Elmhurst. But to a certain extent, I've made a different community for me somewhere else. And I'm really happy that I have that. Because there's people here, again, in the music department that are professional and do work hard. But there's also a lot of just general college students.
Definitely, yeah.
And I'm not saying that to like slam anybody or anything. But it's nice being around people that do want to hang in the community is important. But to a certain extent are more professional, you know, or more hardworking, maybe because they have to be at that point, you know, or they're like forced to be. But yeah, it's like what you're saying, you're always like meeting new people, and I'm happy to have met those new people that I did.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything to else.
No, I mean, I just think in general, putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations oftentimes will lead to things you're happy about down the line. So that's something to keep in mind in the moment, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm out of screen.
Well, you've been out of screen for like the last 20 minutes. So yeah, that's kind of our wrap-up thoughts. Everybody remember, just because this is a live stream, you can still watch it post-stream to like remind people about that. So if you like what you heard, I think you should still send us messages. I really enjoy it when I hear it from you guys, and I have gotten messages from you folks before, and I try to answer them when they come. Sometimes I get distracted. It just kind of happens, but I usually try to respond to them. Anyways, I like hearing from you guys. If you're comfortable, I encourage you all to like make comments. But if you want to send me a private message or a longer one, you can, because I know people who do that. You can probably message Vinny too. Private messages to Vinny Kabat.
It might take me a while.
He's the one you actually want to talk to. So yeah, make sure just, always let me know your thoughts on all this. I like the feedback, whatever it might be, good or negative. I don't know when the next one of these I'll do will be. Next week is spring break. I'm pretty focused on shedding for my recital and doing that well, because I've been giving out a lot of little cards, as you might have been noticing. So it's important to me, so I want to do good with that. And then I have my recital and combo date and like a couple Gretsch performances, like immediately, all happening around the same exact time. So I might not do one of these for a while again. So yeah, I think that's it for the closing thoughts. Cool.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Everybody enjoy those saxophones you hear in the background.
Let's live it up. Soak in all the saxophone glory.